Well, happy, beautiful, amazing day. Dr. Bob Rakowski here, and welcome to this edition of the Dr. Bob Rakowski podcast. I've got Patricia Mullet here. We're going to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting, but interestingly enough, what I found in our pre-conversation is this is one of the most conscious humans that I believe I've ever interacted with. I asked, do you want to see the world? She says, I've already seen the world. I'm already on my second trip around. So you look pretty young. You haven't had that many trips around the sun, but you've already found your purpose. You found our planet. Happy, beautiful, amazing day.
Hi, Dr. Bob and listeners. I hope you're having a great day. It's beautiful
I
here.
trust you, and you're probably going to make it better. So I want to talk about consciousness first. You're talking about food. You're talking about ancestors, but you have some connection, I believe, with truth and goodness and virtue. And where did that start? Was there a moment where things shifted for you and said, I know what I'm here to do?
Okay, so I actually saw one of your stories just yesterday about Ikigai.
Yes.
I found Ikigai, the philosophy of Ikigai, when I was about 17 or 18 years old. And that's when I decided what I wanted to study. And it was definitely helping people. It was, helping people find, connection, mind, body, spirit, society, energetic, and just help people feel like they're having, fulfilled life, just healing in however way that may be for my clients or patients, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, social, energetic, mental. So, throughout the last 20 years, I've just dedicated my life to understanding humans and understanding societies. And that's why I move around a lot, because, all societies are different. Every society has something that we can learn from. And I've been around indigenous cultures, and I've been around, Scandinavian cultures, and every culture you could imagine. And I just feel like I've taken the best of all of those people and incorporated it into my clients and my programs and myself.
So the indigenous, I mean, were you living with the Aborigines? Were you in the Amazon rainforest? Were you all the above?
Well, I'm Australian, so I have had a lot of contact with Aboriginal culture. I never lived with them, but I did live with a couple of tribes in the Peruvian Amazon back in 2019, just learning about their methods, their way of life. It's always fascinated me. I had a yoga studio in Costa Rica, not in the jungle, but around the mountains, and I was surrounded by volcanoes. It was a not-for-profit. So working with people with, illnesses, certain illnesses and disorders, and, just giving back to the community. So I built a studio there and learned a lot from, the hospital will send me patients, and, through yoga and acupuncture and meditation and breathing and walking in nature and connecting with nature and food. I managed to pretty much eliminate most of their symptoms. So, we can learn a lot, but luckily there are people like me that do travel and do what I do. And, I think I'm a kind of healer. So that is my Ikigai. My Ikigai is not just raise awareness and consciousness, but it's to heal, find what each individual needs to heal.
A couple of things I want to say about that. One, congratulations on finding that so early. Right. So Ikigai, I believe it's an Okinawan term, and it's the reason you get out of bed in the morning. And you found that early. Mm-hmm. And as one of my mentors said, if you don't have a reason to get out of bed, why get out of bed?
Yeah.
But then when you've done all this traveling, there was a book years ago called Your Body's Many Cries for Water. And this was a guy that was in an Iranian prison. He was a medical doctor, and people would come to him with all kinds of problems. And all he could treat them with was water. And oddly enough, it was profoundly effective. So what were your favorite tools to use that were local? And were you talking about herbs? Were you talking about lifestyle? Were you talking about meditation, yoga, stretching?
Yeah.
All the above? Tell me how you would move forward.
Every person obviously is a universe of information, and, every person is just so, we have so many things going on, right? From this life, what we carry from our families, from our, social groups and whatever. So every single person is different, but there are a few things that I feel like are definitely, a necessity for everyone, which is being in touch with nature, eating natural foods, detoxing or doing some kind of self-cleanse, whether it's, mind, body, technology, whatever it may be. and hydration, obviously. So eating highly hydrating fruits and vegetables, and drinking good quality water, and also having some kind of spiritual practice as well for those moments where, because you might be perfectly fine physically, but, life's a bit of a roller coaster. So we'll need those tools later on, where we can feel, in balance and in control of our mental and emotional state as well. So I feel like a spiritual practice, being in touch with nature, that's the macro kind of things. And the micro things are obviously, your diet, the way you speak to yourself and others, your having purposeful days, so every day making, being productive or doing something that's making you grow and evolve, and not kind of feeling stuck in life, and just being as coherent as possible with your truth as well, with what you really want and finding what you want to. So I think those are the basics. You look at a tribe, you look at indigenous cultures, and everyone has their place. Everyone already, they're given their Ikigai, or their purpose, from when they're born. They're given their social circle. They're given their families. And, so it's like, and they're in nature, and it's a very simple life. They're not bombarded with all this information. And it's, so it's like getting the best of both worlds. It's like, how can I get, what these beautiful communities have to offer and incorporate it into the modern world? So that's kind of been that's the bridge. I'm trying to be that bridge for people.
Well, you said so many things that are so powerful. I want to start with hydration for just a moment, because it's a big problem. So we're all taught, hey, we should get plenty of water. It should be clean water. Where are these indigenous tribes getting their clean water?
So definitely subterranean water systems, okay, and natural spring water. It depends where they are, So some of these water systems are highly contaminated because of agricultural practices and factories and things like that. Even in the Amazon, it's hard to see, and they're not even as educated as they used to be. Maybe they're washing in the river that they drink water from with, harsh soaps and chemicals and things like that, or burning plastics. So it's a lot of things that, we need to kind of, my next goal would be to re-educate them as well. But so spring water, from waterfalls, subterranean water systems, caves, well water, rainwater. So this is probably the purest would be any water that comes from, a rock formation, because that's got, millions of years of minerals, and that water drags down from the mountains or melted ice caps or whatever into these river systems. So obviously the closer you are to that fountain, the purer it's going to be. But we don't all have access to that. And the other thing is that most of our water is coming in plastic. So, if you can get like a reverse osmosis water filter, or a 7-stage filtration system that kind of, you put, regular water into the system, and it kind of adds all of those minerals that was originally in the water, but it was treated to get rid of the nasty stuff. It's also then stripped of all of the benefits, right? So it's dead water. I call it dead water. It's no longer mineralizing your body. So these tribes are, we're all seeing a big change in the world. We just need to try to get to the source and get quality food, water, air, earth, where our food is growing. So always look for quality.
I would agree. I want to take a little different spin on that. I was in Rome, and I drank from the Roman aqueduct, right? I'm a big fan of pure water, and I thought, how pure is this going to be? And I've got to tell you, I didn't do a biochemical analysis, but my body really seemed to like it. So it was still pure in Rome, and that was a while ago. That was about 20 years ago that I was in Rome. But plants are 90% water, and they are their own filters. So if you're eating high quality fruits, vegetables, coconut water, stuff like that, nature is going to filter it. That's going to be a better source than trying to, but let's face it, we need the water. I remember watching the movie, it might have been called 114 Hours, but this guy was trapped in an Arizona canyon. He fell in a crevice and his arm was caught, and he had to cut his arm off 5 days later to get out. And in the movie, one of the first things he did is, he hadn't had any water for 5 days in the desert. So he fell down in a mud puddle and started drinking it, right? Well, listen, you need hydration to survive, but let's not drink mud water.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to spin for just a moment. Mud water, there's actually a coffee out there called mud water.
There is.
Listen, I'm going to encourage you to try mine. BetterCoffeeShop.com, the world's best organic coffee, certified pure and clean, no heavy metals, herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, molds, mycotoxins. Mudwater's a better choice. This is the best choice. BetterCoffeeShop.com. Go take our 1 box challenge. While you're talking about that and getting people back into nature, how has diet changed maybe over the last couple 100 years? And what are you doing to try to get people back to the realization that the food choices we're making now are probably killing us rather than helping us?
Yeah. So I'd say that we're not in control. Most people are not in control, and they're not making their own choices anymore. Food companies are making the choices for us, through very intelligent marketing, chemicals that are highly addictive and release dopamine all the ads and everything that you're seeing is generally for, unhealthy food, So like, I think it's just, so I usually say, remember what your grandparents used to feed you, what did your ancestors used to eat? They'd sit around a dinner table with, beautifully cooked meal, big pot of, meat, veggies, or whatever it may be, a soup, salads and fresh fruit were always around. We always had fruits and nuts as snacks, and it was always natural water. The milk was fresh, fresh straight from the farm. It used to come in little glass bottles, everything was in glass. And I still have these, I'm only young, but I have these memories because my family always tried to be more, in touch with nature. So we always kind of bought from local farms. We did do a lot of kind of natural medicine, like Chinese medicine and herbs and Ayurveda. In Australia, we have a large community of from India, China, Southeast Asia. So those kind of natural remedies and therapies are incorporated into Australian society. It's part of our culture, really. So, we were lucky in that sense that we had delicious, vegetarian Indian food and like abundance of fruits and vegetables at the Chinese market and things like that. But I understand that that's not so available in maybe colder countries or more isolated little towns and things like that. So my suggestion would be always go local, okay, where you can go local, because you're not just helping your body and the environment, but also supporting local businesses and farmers. And the food generally has less, GMOs, because GMOs are expensive. So, it's very easy to manage a smaller farm with no GMOs, right? And you need to be producing regularly. Every year you need to produce on that land. Whereas, a big production can risk losing that land. And, they've got hectares and hectares and acres of land. So local, fresh in season as well. Try to get, if you see that the figs are suddenly, on the shelf, go for the figs. If you see that the cherries are on the shelf, go for the cherries. Try not to have, tropical fruit in the middle of winter, right? So, because it obviously came from somewhere tropical, took days, weeks, or months to get to you. So local, try to go organic where possible. I know that financially it's not accessible for everyone, but if, for example, you love apples and you eat apples every single day, try to get organic apples, right? And also your water. So, going back to how our grandparents ate, in winter, eat winter foods, eat more stews, eat more soups, maybe eat more baked foods, and not overly condimented, right? And then in summer, have lighter foods, have more salads, more juices, smoothies, fruits, nuts, seeds, things like that. So just be more in tune with what nature is doing.
So let's say that I'm your typical person who's totally out of tune with nature. Give me some easy starting points. What someone says, I don't know where to begin. I just know I don't feel good. Mm-hmm. What should I do?
So first, I'd want to see their lifestyle. What kind of stress are they managing? What their family dynamic is and their work dynamic is. So if they're like, say you're in Norway where it's, dark half the year and you don't get sunlight. So you need to take some supplements, some vitamin D, or eat high vitamin D rich foods. So it depends where the person is, what their DNA kind of genetic background is as well. That makes a big difference. What their lifestyle and stress is like. But generally, I would say watch out for the 5 white poisons, which are refined sugar, refined flour, refined salt, artificial sweeteners, and dairy. Okay, so dairy, that is like obviously highly homogenized and pasteurized. You can go for like a goat's milk, or obviously like a vegetarian or plant-based milk or something like that. But dairy is good if it's fresh. I believe, I mean, I was vegan for 18 years, but I would never recommend a vegan diet to anyone. It would have to be, it's a long process. And it took me a long time to get there. But, if you're having fresh white cheese from, a locally grown, cow that's right near you or close to you, let's say, and this cheese is coming in bile, or like in water, like a bocconcini, like the ricotta or the feta cheese, the white, not the cream cheeses that are processed, but all of those dairies are fine, right? Fresh milk, the fresher the better, obviously. And then obviously you can substitute all of the other substances. So the white flour, the refined flour, I would substitute for like coconut flour, almond flour, or quinoa flour. Then the refined salt, I would substitute for like a sea salt or a Celtic salt or a black salt. There are so many salts out there. And then the sugar, the refined sugar, I would substitute for a good quality honey or agave. Make sure it's always organic, and again, local, maybe some date sugar or something like that, right? Just a natural source of sugar, or some fresh dates or prunes or raisins. You can sweeten, make some bakery goods with dehydrated fruit. Then the artificial sweeteners, I would eliminate completely. Okay, I would add the natural sugars. Obviously, it depends what the blood glucose level is like. But, generally, if you're having like low GI fruits, it's not going to spike your blood sugar. So I would substitute artificial sweeteners for like fresh fruit juices that have low GI. And then,
by the way, it's glycemic index for our people, how fast it spikes blood sugar. So you speak the lingo so well. I'm just curious, what was your top lesson after being a vegetarian for 18 years?
I was, when you first find, something that you just think this could save the world, this could save all of humanity. I think I realized that, like I said in the beginning, every single person is a universe of information, and what works for me doesn't work for others. And when I'm doing a program, it is so personalized and specific. And like I said, I'm looking at all these factors. So I think it was more like, take what I learned about, eating more legumes and more, fermented foods, and like maybe other superfoods that I didn't incorporate when I wasn't vegetarian or vegan. A lot of like the goji berries and the seeds and eating more raw. But like I said, that's not for everyone. So I just used it as another tool. So if someone is interested in maybe, or has high, other health issues where they should be eating more vegetarian, then I know exactly what I can, how I can change their diet easily without it being too drastic. So I know how to supplement the high fat foods for lower fat, plant-based foods, and the transition's usually easy. So I think that's what I learned the most. I obtained tools to make other people's, my clients or patients, kind of diets more easily to change, more easy to kind of find that, evolution in their diet.
So some level of commentary on that. One, I hope we all want what's best for the planet. And there's a lot of people that realize that so much of factory farming is nothing but animal cruelty, from giving them a bad diet and a bad lifestyle and tons of antibiotics and creating sick meat that create a sick population. None of us are in favor of that, right? If we truly knew what we're doing to the animals and what they were doing to us at the top of the food chain, that would be terrible. But grass-fed organic beef, I did a fire walk with an Indian chief. It seems like it was over 30 years ago now. And it was a whole ritual. We'd set the fire, we'd go and they'd talk about the history and how they honored all of Mother Nature, which is essentially what you're talking. There's so much of that memory that comes back to me. But when they would go on a buffalo hunt, the Indians, one, they give thanks before the hunt. They pray for safety. They pray to take the right buffalo. And when they took that buffalo, they'd use every single bit of it, from the bone to the teeth to jewelry to the hide. And boy, wouldn't it be nice to get back to that. But you said a few other things in there, right? We do have genetics. Genetics matter. We should eat like our ancestors ate, but now this whole globe is blended. Mm-hmm. So, people have to learn to listen to their body. That's a good start. But you're part of it in that listening, in those attempts. You're a big fan of intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that. How did you get started with it? And what do you recommend for people?
So, firstly, anyone starting any kind of fast should definitely consult with their practitioner, with a healthcare practitioner and doctor, or, that they obviously trust and that has been helping them throughout their lives. But so that's number one. Always do blood work before you do anything, just to check if there's any precursors or any underlying conditions there before you make any changes to anything in your life, really. So there are various ways. The most popular way is the 16-8, so 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of eating. But like I said as well, every person is a whole universe. So it depends on their current diet. It depends on their caloric output. Are they exercising, their age, the metabolism? It depends on so many things. So generally, I would start with like 12 hours first for someone that's never fasted. 12 hours of fasting from the last meal to the first meal. So the last dinner to the first meal, breakfast or brunch. And then change their whole diet. So incorporate more plant-based foods, more organic, more local, super hydrating fruits. So a lot of watermelon, melons, mangoes, key limes, lemons, citrus fruits, berries, like all of these really hydrating fruits, and then cruciferous or green vegetables, leafy green vegetables. And I also incorporate plant medicine. So like nettle leaf and like raspberry leaf and ginkgo biloba, ginseng, a whole bunch of, adaptogenics. So the mushroom tonics or elixirs. And I'd start kind of like balancing out their gut bacteria first and detoxing from all of those things that are going to prevent them from getting the most benefits of their fast. So it's a whole process. It's not like, oh, let's just go do 16 hours of fasting and I'm fine. No, you need to look at your whole diet. And then I would start to increase that time every month or so. So this would be like a lifelong thing. I wouldn't put them on a program. It'd be like, okay, so from now on, you will do an intermittent fast. So this is a thing that you're going to incorporate, like brushing your teeth every day. You're going to incorporate your fast. So I always start the day, tell them to clean their tongue with a tongue cleaner or a teaspoon. Definitely not made of aluminium, so no heavy metals. Then I'd get them to do some oil pulling with some extra virgin organic coconut oil. Okay, so 5 to 10 minutes of oil pulling, then brush their teeth, and then they can have their first meal. So generally the first meal after a full night of fasting will be ultra hydrating. So it could be just, a big chunk of watermelon with some coconut water. It could be a fresh juice. It could be lemon water or lime water with some turmeric and black pepper or, whatever supplements that they're having. That's the first thing they're going to ingest in the morning, and a lot of water. So good quality, high pH, highly mineralized water, room temperature, never too cold. And then they're going to wait a few minutes until, their digestive system is prepared. And then they're going to eat their first meal. It can be at breakfast, brunch, or lunch even. Depends how long the fast is for. And that also has to be super nutritious. So I usually say 25% of the plate should be a lean protein, organic, non-antibiotics, no hormones. A quarter of the plate should be healthy fats. So avocados, nuts, seeds, some good oils, some macadamia oil, some, olive oil. And then half of the plate should be salad or some lightly steamed vegetables or a little stir fry, mainly green, but eat the rainbow, pretty much. That's my motto. So eat the rainbow. And then, after that, having some fruit, another juice, a smoothie, maybe a protein shake if you've got a good quality, protein powder or some other supplements that you like to take in the afternoon. It also depends when you work out. So I generally like people to work out before their first meal or before dinner. So it depends whether you're a morning person, your circadian rhythm has a lot to do with your energy. So it's, a lot of other factors there. And then stop eating at around 6 p.m. So maybe your last meal should be a very nutritious meal with some complex carbohydrates, some lean protein and a wide variety of vegetables. and then have your first meal again at 10 a.m. if you're doing the 16-8. So last meal at 6 p.m., first meal at 10 a.m., but always making sure that what you're eating in that 8-hour bracket obviously is super hydrating and nourishing, and going back to what you said about being with the Native American Indian, I really found that fascinating, because I often say that to people, even while I was vegan, I'm no longer vegan. I'm 99% vegan, but I do, and I have eaten wild game meat. So, if there's one thing I've learned, and it's going back to nature, it's like, if you can substitute, farm raised animals, meat, and instead go to a local hunter, or, a meat provider that has, rabbit and duck and all kinds of wild, but I mean, if that's legal, obviously, I mean, the vegans are going to kill me for saying this, but I truly believe that if you have game meat a little once a week, maybe 200 grams of wild meat once a week, or once every bi-weekly, that's enough to nourish your body. Wild caught fish as well. Go fishing, find some local fishermen in the area. So anyway, going back to the fast, that would be the easiest way to start fasting. Anywhere between 12 hours between your last meal and your first meal to 16 hours on a daily basis for the rest of your life. Okay. Wow. Then we do more intense detoxing. So, sorry, did you want to go into something?
No. You know what? So I'm loving it. I did want to say one thing. What about pregnant women? Can they intermittent fast? Should they? Yeah. Women in childbearing years that want to conceive, should they intermittent fast? Let's go with that first.
So that's why I said first, always check with your healthcare professional. Yep. Always check with your doctor, and do your blood work. Okay, do an intensive blood work. Just make sure there's no precursors or underlying health issues there. Now, obviously, if you have some kind of intolerance or even low blood pressure or high cholesterol or something like that, if you make any drastic changes or quick changes, it could actually have an adverse effect before it gets better. So always start things slowly, gradually, with very, conscious of what you're doing. No change is, any quick change is not going to last long. So, slower changes, easy to kind of manage, are going to last a lot longer. You're creating the building blocks of your health. And that takes a lot of time and patience and education and consciousness, and finding a good doctor and a good guide, maybe a good nutritionist as well, or myself. I'm always available. But yeah, so pregnant women definitely have to have a lot more calories, a lot more supplementation. It very much depends on how their pregnancy is going, what trimester they're in, and again, if they're working a full-time job, if they're not, what their stress level is like. You have to get a full endocrine test done, like a digestive test done. So there are so many things with like specific populations that I have to take into consideration when I'm writing one of these fasting programs or diet plans. So it's every person is a whole universe. But it definitely can be very good for someone, for example, that was already a little bit unhealthy before the pregnancy, or has type 2, adult onset diabetes. And it's something that they need to kind of like learn during this period of pregnancy or whatever to be healthier for themselves and their baby. So maybe it's not so much a fast, but maybe it's just like changing the foods that you're eating, just substituting the processed stuff or the not organic stuff for more natural stuff. That would be the first step.
So by the way, there's plenty of people that get hungry, but they might just misinterpret thirst for hunger. So I have people drink plenty of water. Like you said, you made a very good point of that. I want to emphasize that. Also, healthy, clean coffee and teas. Use the term plant medicine. You were talking what I describe herbal medicine. Lately, plant medicine has been getting names like ayahuasca and psilocybin, which, by the way, they definitely have a place too. So we're coming up on the magic 30 minutes of the podcast. What's your final message for our listeners, and what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Okay, my final message would be, I think we have to find balance. We have to find balance within ourselves and outside of ourselves. So in society, in this, habitat that we've created. And I think a lot of our physical ailments, like a lot of our things can be healed when we find balance. Okay. So with our food, with our, mental state, with our emotional state, with our spirituality, with our purpose, with our Ikigai. So firstly, find balance. Where are you lacking balance in your life? Is it a relationship? Is it your work? Are you not happy in the morning? Are you like living a life that's not coherent with what you want to achieve? So I think once you find balance, you become more aware and more conscious, and then you start automatically making the right decisions. So your body will tell you. Your body is the most intelligent life living thing on earth, and it will tell you exactly when something shouldn't be in there. Okay, you will get symptoms like fatigue or insomnia or bloating or acne or bad breath or so many things that come up, hair loss, weight gain, and that's your body telling you that you need to make a change and find balance. So listen to your body. Find a good healthcare practitioner, find a holistic, maybe healthcare practitioner, someone that can integrate all of these things. Maybe they can help you in different stages of your life. So I do that. I'm available for online assessments. I write very personalized, detailed programs for all populations of all cultural backgrounds and religions as well, because fasting is a huge part of most religions, and doing that in a healthy way, and just so that's definitely my purpose, and I'm always happy to help anyone that comes into contact with me. I think there are no coincidences. I think me being here and meeting you, Dr. Bob, has its own purpose.
Well, I'm fully confident that someone that needs to hear this is hearing it. And we want to go to patriciafitnessguru.com and you can consult with my new amazing, powerful, connected, conscious, expansive friend, Patricia Mullet. It's been a wonderful conversation. The time flew. I think we might be having another one. It's at a future date because you offered so much goodness.
I hope so. Many blessings. Thank you so much. Thank you all to all the listeners, and find that balance. It's time. It's definitely time to find balance.
I agree. And I'll close with, as I always close, I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.